Russian troops continued to strike on identified enemy targets over the past week. In the Mykolaiv region, an echelon carrying ammunition for artillery pieces and mortars in 𝐒𝐤𝐫𝐚 came under fire. In Odessa region, a drone raid hit a ferry terminal in Izmail district. The facility was used for the transit of cargo to Romania. The crossing was closed for more than 12 hours. In Sumy region, Russian troops launched strikes on the enemy's critical infrastructure. During the raids, power facilities in the Shostka and Sumy districts were knocked out of operation, resulting in prolonged blackouts. Ukrainian units conducted a massive drone raid on the Voronezh region in the middle of the week. The target was military airfields in the region. The air defense forces shot down all UAVs, no casualties. The next day, Ukrainian units again attacked the region with drones. Most of them were shot down, but a few managed to hit the territory of the Aninsky oil depot. At the same time, Ukrainian security services continued to carry out terrorist attacks. The head of the Zaporizhzhia NPP authorization service was killed in Enerhodar. In Kursk region, a Russian armored group conducted a successful attack south of the Plekovo-Borky line in the Sudzhansky district. To the north, the Russian armed forces regained control of positions near Kauchuk and Kromsky-Biki. In the Glushkovsky district, Russian troops consistently occupied previously lost positions. The enemy has been pushed back south of Veselo, and fighting is taking place to the east, within the borders of Medvezhe. On the Slobozhanska direction, positional fighting continued near Hliboke. In Vovchansk, the AFU advanced along Kliboroba Street and managed to advance up to 140 meters to the north. In the Kupiansk-Svatov direction, Russian forces have been launching strikes on the AFU temporary deployment sites in Kupiansk. To the southwest of the city, an air-guided missile destroyed a crossing over the Oskil River near Kupiansk-Vuzlovi. In the Lyman direction, Russian troops have expanded their bridgehead on the opposite bank of the Oskil near Makiivka. At the moment, the fighting is taking place north of the altitude 168.6, the control of which will allow to view the surrounding area. In the Siversk direction, Russian forces improved their tactical positions north of Spirny. The Russian armed forces knocked Ukrainian units out of the surrounding forest belts, advancing towards Verkhnokamianske. In the Artemivsk direction, positional battles continued at the Hrihorivka-Kalinove line. In this area, Russian troops are trying to establish control over the territory of the Urochishche Orlovo Reserve. In the Oleksandrovske-Kalinove direction, Russian troops advanced along Mayakovsky and Druzhba streets. Battles with intensive use of drones and artillery from both sides are taking place in the area of the former military administration. In the Pokrovsk direction, Russian troops were advancing west of Marinivka along the M30 highway at the northern entrance to Selidove. To the north, Russian troops took control of the mine territory west of Novohrodivka and entrenched themselves on the outskirts of Lysivka. In the Donetsk region, Russian troops established control over Tsukurin during intensive fighting over the course of a week. After the servicemen occupied the local mine, fighting began west of the village near the poultry farm. To the south, a Russian armored group attacked the AFU positions in Ostrivska, advancing towards Karakova. In the course of the battle, they managed to advance more than 2 kilometers west of Ostrivska and gain a foothold on the outskirts of the village. The Russian armed forces have liberated Vuhledar in the South Donetsk direction after several weeks of intense clashes. During the fighting, 44 Ukrainian soldiers were captured, 116 civilians were rescued. Demining is underway in the city. To the south, Russian troops have consolidated their foothold on the territory of the shaft west of Vodyain. The soldiers also advanced several kilometers along the forest belts and engaged in fighting on the southeastern outskirts of Kateřinivka. Positional fighting continued in the Vremivka direction, north of Staromayorska and Urozhain. The sides exchanged strikes and rotated in anticipation of intensified fighting in this area. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, Russian troops concentrated on damaging the rear communications of the AFU. During the week, strikes were launched on occupied Zaporizhzhia and the railway station in Komishuvaka. In the Kherson area, Russian troops foiled another attempt by the AFU to land on the Kinburn Spit. On the right bank of the Dnipro River, a missile strike was launched on enemy facilities and equipment in Velika Oleksandrivka.